So you want to know one of the most heavily debated and somewhat controversial concepts of our generation, the question of deity. Unfortunately, I may not be able to give you a definite answer, which I'll explain later. So, is God real? Or what? Well, before even answering that question, we need to define our terms. We must ask the question, what/who is God? Traditionally, there are 8 concepts of God that can thankfully help us with that. The first one being God is a transcendent, meaning he's beyond our ordinary world. The second one being God is immanent, meaning God is within us. Next we have God as totally immanent, meaning God is everything. Another one being God is a universal spirit, meaning the spirit acts within us. There's also God as a process, meaning he's still in the process of becoming. There's also God as a transcendent, meaning he has no human attributes. Another way to describe God is an unknown object, and a true commitment involves a leap of faith and not trying to prove anything. And the last one, and probably the most common one, is God is a moral being, meaning he makes good choices. So are you gonna tell me if God is real? Well, before we can do that, we should discuss the 3 major sects of the question of deity. Let's start with the first section, theism. Theists believe that God, according to their definition, is real, and they also believe in a soul. Theists can also be linked to concepts such as idealism and theological perspective on free will. Unless you believe in the definition as God as an unknown object of faith, there should be some proof backing up the existence of God. That's where our boy St. Anselm comes into play with the ontological perspective. St. Anselm uses a deductive argument technique to explain his views on God. The first premise he uses is that God is all perfect, and the second is that if God is perfect, then he must have the perfection of existence. Therefore, God exists. This argument can be easily rebutted. For instance, Immanuel Kant sees a flaw in the second premise, stating that existence isn't a perfection. St. Thomas Aquinas also provides proofs as to why God exists. To briefly explain some of his arguments, the first one he uses is motion. He believes that motion causes motion, and the first person to cause this motion is God. Another argument he uses is causality is also used to explain why God exists. He believes that events cause events, but there must be a person to start the first event, and that person is God. The third proof is contingency. For example, at one point before you were born, you didn't exist. This can be applied to everything in our world. But if that was the case, if everything was contingent, then there would be an empty world. Clearly our world isn't empty, therefore we need a non-contingent thing like God. The next proof is properties come in different degrees. If an object has a property to a lesser extent, then there must be an object that has a property to the max extent. In this case, that would be God. Both St. Thomas Aquinas and William Paley use the sign of our world to prove their views. Aquinas states that there are some objects in our world with no minds, therefore being with a mind, God must have made those objects. Another point by William Paley is that the world works so perfectly that a divine being must have curated it. The next proof is Pascal's wager. So, to explain, if you're a theist, the best case scenario is you go to heaven. If you're an atheist, the best case scenario is nothing. If you're wrong and you're a theist, the worst case scenario is nothing happens. But if you're wrong and you're an atheist, the worst case scenario is you go to hell. Atheism. Atheism is the next section. Atheists believe everything opposite of theists, meaning they don't believe in a God. The main proof for atheism is the problem of evil. If God created everything, that means he created evil. For instance, a child who dies of cancer is because of God. That doesn't sound like a morally good action. Therefore, that's why atheists believe that God doesn't exist. Some theists rebuttal this by saying that there's justice in the afterlife and that God places evil to test us. The last section is agnosticism. Agnostics don't know if God is real. And there's 2 types of agnostics: agnostic atheists and agnostic theists. Agnostic theists believe in God, but they don't necessarily have proof. And agnostic atheists don't believe in God, and they don't have proof either. I'd probably label myself as an agnostic atheist. Let's say an atheist, an agnostic, and outside in a room and had a debate about deities. The atheist and the theist would probably disregard the agnostic, since they're pretty useless in the conversation, since they're neutral. So you're telling me you didn't know this whole time? Basically, yeah.
That's all, folks.